thanks very much, and Lester and Sean, thank you for that beautiful welcome to Menang and Bibbulmun country. I'm just is it Bibbulmun here? But you obviously are also a Menang leader, so fantastic to do that and to set the right tone for this event, because it is very much about how we can provide through agriculture a better and healthier world. Can I also, of course, acknowledge my good friend and colleague, local member Jane Kelsby, who really, I think, very much shares the sentiments that you expressed today, Lester. And to Stephen Frost, the co-host with Steve Burbeck. It's just fantastic to have both of you coming together. I've been over the years working with both of you, and to see your creativity coming together today to this event to come out and talk about regenerative farming, climate change, and how we are going to really enhance and understand the role of livestock in the system. And I believe we have Diane Evers here, former Member of Parliament. Diane, welcome, former colleague, and Don Clark from the Shire of Denmark, I understand, is here. But guys, look, it's so good to have such a crowd turn up to talk about these really critical issues. Now, I have to say, and you do have to get a little bit political about some of these things, but I'm constantly copying it from the other side in Parliament, because they reckon you shouldn't be talking about these things, that this is all about growing biodynamic quinoa, that's what we're focused on. We say, no, this is actually mainstream stuff. This is mainstream. This is about cattle. It's about wheat. It's about barley and everything else. And because this is actually really at the heart of this is a desire for us to understand what's happening in the world, to understand that we have a massive impact from climate change, and that's going to impact on us in different ways. For a start, probably not so markedly here, but for much of the state, being hotter and drier is actually going to make the task of farming harder. Secondly, it is setting up market structures that we are going to have to respond to. So increasingly we see finance companies, investors being very clear that the prudential authorities are requiring them to have a carbon risk analysis. So this goes back to the preparedness of a bank to lend to you and to lend for expansion. They are going to have to assess what your carbon footprint. The people that are purchasing their product from you, they are going to be wanting to know what your carbon footprint is. We are very export dependent here in Western Australia in our agricultural sector. Increasingly, those international markets are putting a whole range of ESG barriers. Already 20% of CBH's grain is segregated to gain access to premium markets, primarily around the use of pesticides and herbicides. But that range of things is expanding. We know European markets now have a carbon adjustment mechanism, so that if we haven't got our carbon footprint right, we are going to find our products taxed. So this is mainstream. This is actually mainstream stuff. So what are we trying to do here in the regen space? And it is about trying to understand the complexity of the biological system and how we can how we can capture understanding from that biological system to enable us to develop a product that has greater nutritional value, that makes us less dependent on external inputs, and gives us a better understanding of how we can get nature working for us. Now, this is not to say that we do not understand that there will be a continuing, ongoing role for the agriculture, the agricultural developments that have happened over the last 100 years. But it is saying it's time for it's a refresh now. It's a time for us to actually, instead of looking at perhaps a chemical approach, rediscovering the extent of that agricultural approach and recognising that in that is actually going to open up fantastic new opportunities, because it is going to open up the opportunity for growing a premium product, a product that has greater nutritional density. It is going to open up the opportunity for us to reduce our chemical inputs, to reduce that allotment. Anyone looking at the escalation of the cost of nitrogenous fertilisers at the moment can understand that this is the cost of these things are a real issue. And it's also going to open up that opportunity for farming to be a great sequesterer of carbon. Now, whether or not it is through the strategic planting of trees and getting the benefit of that, I think very importantly and perhaps underrated, it's the ability to sequester carbon in the soil. Now, we know that there was, in the Paris Climate Initiative, there was a project launched, a 4 in 1,000, which said for just a 0.4% increase per annum of soil carbon in the world's agricultural soils could see up to 25% of human anthropomorphic carbon emissions absorbed. Now, whether or not that's overstated, how far that applies, we're not sure, but we do know that if we can build up that soil organic matter, there is a very, very real prospect that we can start making a very real contribution to getting the carbon balance back right. And there is money in it. There's money either through the development of carbon credits, which either can be sold by a farmer, or, as in many cases, and I know there's farmers down here that are doing it, that are developing the accus, but they're wanting to keep those carbon credits themselves, so when they're going out and promoting their product, they can use that as part of their carbon offset and develop a carbon neutral product, which is going to become increasingly important over time. Now, of course, we've got here today, I understand that you're going to be looking also at signing a memorandum of cooperation, I understand, about this livestock. And look, I think that this is a hugely important issue, the role of livestock. Now, you know, the existential threat to livestock really is the march of veganism, and much of which is based on a notion and a sincerely held view that livestock are actually a problem, and that this is the source of carbon emissions. Now, and I think a lot of that data is based on animals raised in other environments, not animals that graze, but are raised on grain in feedlots, in intensive feedlots. we need to actually understand how different a story this is in when we have grazed animals, and we need to understand. And for all of the work that I have seen and what I've witnessed from farmers that are doing amazing things out there, that we can that the role of livestock in a system, in an agricultural system, is critically important if we want to get a biologically sustainable system. So I think the idea that we just get rid of all of the animals and we go and plant for almond milk and quinoa or whatever, I do not. I think it is highly questionable that would lead to a more positive or a more sustainable outcome. But we've got to get this story right, and we've got to understand, okay, we do have these animals do burp, but we need to understand exactly what happens there. There are methanotropes in the soil that actually require the animals to do that they themselves are stimulating part of the biological system. So this is very complex, and we have to work hard on this and to really give the true picture, because we go back. It's all about understanding the system, and this is presented by some people as anti-science. It's the complete antithesis of that. It is wanting to understand profoundly the ecological system within which we farm and the benefits that can come from that. And if we just even look at a recent argument, for some reason or other, certain personnel in the Farmers Federation have taken great exception to the fact that I've suggested that strategic tree planting and the accompanying biodiversity might actually help with pest control, and that we see that, and we see farmers that are doing that, traditional farmers that are doing that understand it. We just on the way here we're talking about a very conventional farmer, very long-term farmer, Barry West from Cool, talking about the importance of ants in his system. That ants taking weed seeds down into their nest is an important part of the way that he manages, and that you need to be aware of what you might be doing that might be killing those ants that are part of your system. But just one of the bit, if I can sort of end on this reflection, that the other day at UWA, I was there, the various early career scientists were doing their pitches on, from a whole range of different disciplines. And a young man, Khalil Kalaman, came up with his approach. Now, it was about a particular fungus that he had discovered in the Jarrah forest, that he had turned into now a soil amendment. And it brings to the fore that idea, like we're always told how crap our soils are here in Western Australia, and particularly those areas where Jarrah grows. And I always just wonder, how do all these big trees, how do we get so much stuff coming out of apparently this gutless white sand or whatever it is characterised? And increasingly, we are now beginning to understand that that incredible mycorrhizobia, the soil biome that allows Jarrah trees and other forest species to actually mine the soil, to find that phosphorus, to find those nutrients and bring them to those trees. And the potential that has then, and this product now, this ground up mushroom, being used as a soil amendment in broadacre cropping, is actually showing really positive results. So this is a very exciting time. It is about keeping our minds open, keeping our minds alive to how we can learn from nature, how we can use our scientific knowledge and to understand the system fully, and help us as a civilization deal with this problem of climate change. Help us deal with the problem of creating nutritional, healthy food for all of the people of the world. So thank you very much for coming along here today. I think this is massively important and it is massively exciting. Thank you very much.